Captain Sung-Ho Kim stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars. He had been traveling through space for 6 months, searching for new worlds and new life forms. The ship was called New Seoul, and it carried 50 crew members who were all excited about finding aliens for the first time. The bridge was quiet except for the soft humming of the computers. Lieutenant Hya Jin Park sat at her station watching the radar screen. She was the ship's weapons officer, but she hoped they would never need to use their guns. Engineer Boram Choi was checking all the ship systems to make sure everything worked perfectly. Communications officer Jae-min Lee was listening for any signals from space. Suddenly, the radar screen lit up with a huge blip. Something very big was coming toward them. Captain Kim felt his heart beat faster. This could be the moment humans had waited for, since they first looked up at the stars. The alien ship appeared in front of them, and it was massive. It looked like a giant black mountain floating in space. The metal was so dark it seemed to eat the light from nearby stars. Strange symbols glowed red along its sides. The ship was 3 times bigger than New Seoul and covered with weapons. Jae-min. Lee jumped up from his chair. Captain, a signal is coming through. They want to talk to us. The screen in front of them flickered and an alien face appeared. The creature had purple skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were completely black, like looking into deep space. Sharp teeth filled its mouth. When it smiled, the crew felt cold inside. Its voice sounded like metal being crushed. "Humans," the alien said. Speaking perfect Korean, "I am General Vex of the Morak Empire. You will give us your ship right now. Your people are weak and stupid. We have been watching you for many years and you are nothing compared to our great power, Captain." Kim stepped forward, trying to stay calm. "We come in peace. General Vex, there is no need for fighting between our people. We can be friends and learn from each other." General Vex laughed and the sound made everyone on the bridge cover their ears. "Peace. You humans know nothing about strength. We have destroyed 47 star systems. Your tiny ship will be broken into pieces. Your crew will work as slaves in our mines until they die." Boram Choi looked at her computer screen and saw something terrible. The alien ship was not just looking at them. It was copying all their information about Earth, about human colonies, about everything. The aliens now knew where every human lived. "Captain," she whispered, "they are stealing our database. They know where Earth is now. They know about our families." The words hit everyone like a punch to the stomach. This was not just about their ship anymore. General Vex and his empire now knew where to find Earth with its 8 billion people. They knew where human children played, where mothers and fathers worked, where grandparents told stories to little ones. General Vex saw the fear on their faces and his smile grew wider. "Yes, little humans, we know where your nest is. Give up now and maybe we will kill you quickly when we come to your precious Earth. We will burn your cities and take your people as slaves. Your children will work in our factories until they are too old to be useful." That was the moment everything changed. Captain Kim felt something wake up inside him, something that had been sleeping in human hearts for thousands of years. It was the same feeling that made a mother fight a bear to protect her baby. It was what made a father work 3 jobs to feed his family. It was what made humans fight impossible battles when someone threatened the people they loved. "You just made a very big mistake," Captain Kim said quietly. General Vex laughed again. "What can you do, little human? Your ship has small guns. Our ship has weapons that can destroy planets." Captain Kim looked at his crew and saw the same feeling in their eyes. The aliens had just threatened their families, their children, their parents, every person they had ever loved. And humans had a rule that went back to the caves when they first learned to make fire. Anyone who threatens your family becomes your enemy, until one of you is dead. Hee-jin Park was already working at her weapons station. Her fingers moved over the controls like she was playing piano. Boram Choi was sending messages to Earth telling them what had happened. Jae-min Lee was recording every word the alien said. So people back home would know who their enemies were. "We are just one small ship," Captain Kim told General Vex. "But we are not alone. We have families waiting for us back home. And when humans hear that someone threatened their families, something very dangerous happens." "What could possibly happen?" General Vex asked, still laughing. "You're about to find out," Captain Kim replied. The alien general did not understand what those words meant. He thought humans were like all the other weak species his people had conquered. He thought they would be scared and give up. He thought threatening their homeworld would make them surrender. General Vex had conquered many worlds and destroyed many civilizations. He had seen fear in the eyes of thousands of different alien species, but he had never met humans before. He did not know that humans had spent their entire history fighting against anyone who tried to hurt their families. He did not know that humans had a saying, "If you want peace, prepare for war." He did not know that. Every human child learned about heroes who died protecting others. He did not know that humans had weapons hidden all across space, just waiting for someone to threaten Earth. Most importantly, General Vex did not know that threatening a human family was the same as declaring war on every human alive, and humans were very, very good at war. The alien general was still smiling when Captain Kim gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. "All stations prepare for combat. Signal Earth tell them the Morak Empire just declared war on the human race in that moment. 50 humans on one small ship became the most dangerous enemies the Morak Empire had ever faced, and they had no idea what was coming for them. The hunt was about to begin." The message from Captain Kim reached Earth in less than an hour, through the quantum communication network. The signal traveled faster than light, jumping from relay station to relay station, until it arrived at the Global Defense Council building. In Seoul, South Korea, Admiral In-soo Yang was having dinner with his family when his emergency communicator started beeping. He looked at the message and his face went white. His wife asked what was wrong, but he was already putting on his uniform 20 minutes later. Admiral Yang stood in the main command center looking at a room full of the most important people on Earth. General Min Ho Han, commander of the Shadow Fleet, sat at the big table next to Dr. So-ra Kim, the head of Alien Studies Colonel. Tae-jung Park from Military Intelligence was there too, along with dozens of other officers and scientists. The big screen on the wall showed a map of human space, with little dots representing every ship, every colony, every outpost humans had built. Among the stars, Admiral Yang pressed a button, and Captain Kim's voice filled the room, telling them exactly what General Vex had said. When the recording finished, the room was completely quiet. Everyone understood what had just happened. An alien empire had threatened to destroy Earth, to kill 8 billion people, to take human children as slaves. The Morak had just made the biggest mistake in the history of the galaxy. Admiral Yang stood up and looked at everyone in the room. "The aliens think they are dealing with a weak species," he said in a voice that was calm but deadly. "They have no idea what humans do when someone threatens our families." General Han pulled up another map on his screen. This one showed ships that were not supposed to exist. According to the public records, these were the Shadow Fleet vessels hidden in asteroid belts and empty space, waiting for exactly this moment. For 50 years, humans had been preparing for the day when aliens might try to hurt them. "We have been ready for this since we first left Earth." General Han said, "Every colony has weapons, every mining ship can become a fighter. Every peaceful explorer carries enough firepower to destroy a city. The aliens think they are hunting sheep. They are about to learn they are hunting wolves." Dr. Kim had been studying the data from the new Seoul. She stood up and activated a hologram showing the Morak ship. "The aliens are physically stronger than us," she explained, "but they made one big mistake. They think strength equals victory. They have never fought humans before. What the Morak did not know was that humans had spent thousands of years learning how to fight bigger, stronger enemies. A human child could not beat a lion in a fair fight, so humans made sure fights were never fair. They used tools and traps and teamwork and intelligence. They turned every disadvantage into an advantage." Colonel Park pressed some buttons, and the star map changed to show red dots moving through space toward Earth. "The Morak fleet," he said, 40 ships heading straight for our home world. They think this will be easy. They think humans will be scared and surrender." Admiral Yang smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had just found his prey. "Signal all human colonies," he ordered. "Signal all exploration ships. Signal everyone. The Morak Empire just declared war on the human race. They are about to learn why that was a mistake." Across human space, the response was immediate. On the mining world of New Busan, workers put down their tools and picked up weapons that had been hidden in the equipment storage. On the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, scientists stopped their experiments and started loading torpedo tubes that no alien knew existed. Captain So-Young Kim was commanding the cargo ship Far Wanderer when she got the message. She looked at her crew of 20 people and saw the same expression on every face. The aliens had threatened their families, and now those aliens were going to pay. The cargo ship transformed in minutes. Hidden panels opened, revealing missile launchers. The peaceful transport became a warship. The crew had been training for this day their whole lives, and they were ready. Lieutenant Commander Tae-ho Lee was piloting a small scout ship in the asteroid belt near Jupiter. His ship was designed to be invisible to alien sensors, and he had been watching empty space for 2 years waiting for something like this. When he got Admiral Young's message, he smiled and started his engines. It was time to go hunting. Back on Earth, the war machine that humans had built in secret began to move. Factories that made farming equipment started producing weapons instead. Ships that carried supplies between colonies were loaded with soldiers. Peaceful scientists became military advisors overnight. The beautiful thing about humans, Admiral Yang thought as he watched the reports come in, was that they learned from every fight, every war, every battle. Every defeat had taught them something new. They had studied every military leader in history, from ancient generals to modern space commanders. They had learned from every mistake and remembered every victory. Dr. Kim pulled up files showing the other species the Morak had conquered. 47 civilizations, she said, all destroyed or enslaved. But the aliens made another mistake. They left survivors, and those survivors have been waiting for someone strong enough to lead them against their oppressors. Communications Officer Eun Seo-young was already reaching out to those survivors using secret channels to contact the slaves and the hidden rebels. She offered them weapons training and, most importantly, hope. For the first time in generations, the oppressed peoples of the galaxy had allies who could actually fight back. The Morak Empire had built its power on fear and brutality. They conquered worlds by making examples of anyone who resisted. They kept control by making sure no one was strong enough to fight back. But they had never faced humans before, and humans had spent their entire history fighting against bullies. General Han activated the final protocol, and across human space, sleeping warriors woke up. The Shadow Fleet began to move like ghosts. In the darkness, ships that had been hiding for decades powered up their engines and started hunting humans who had lived normal lives as farmers and teachers and doctors, suddenly became soldiers in the most important war the galaxy had ever seen. The Morak fleet was still traveling toward Earth, confident in their victory. General Vex sat in his command chair planning how he would divide up the human slaves. He had no idea that death was already stalking him through the Void Scout ships were tracking every Morak vessel. Stealth fighters were moving into attack positions. Intelligence officers were studying alien communications and learning everything about their enemies. The humans were not just preparing to defend Earth. They were preparing to destroy the Morak Empire completely. Admiral Yang looked at the tactical display showing hundreds of human ships converging from every direction. The aliens thought they were attacking sheep. He said to his staff, "Instead, they have awakened every wolf in the galaxy. The hunt had begun, and the Morak had no idea they were now the prey." The Morak fleet moved through space like a pack of hungry wolves. General Vex sat in his command center, surrounded by his officers planning the destruction of Earth. His species had destroyed dozens of worlds and enslaved millions of beings. Humans seemed no different from all the others. Weak, divided, emotional creatures who would surrender when faced with superior force. But General Vex was wrong about humans, and he was about to learn just how wrong he was. 3 weeks into their journey toward Earth, the first Morak ship disappeared. The destroyer. Dark Fang simply vanished from their sensors one moment. It was there, the next moment, empty space. No distress signal, no explosion, no wreckage, just gone, like it had never existed. General Vex stared at his tactical display in confusion. "Where did Dark Fang go?" he asked his communications officer. "Sir, we lost contact 17 minutes ago." The officer looked nervous. "All systems show normal space in that sector." Scout Commander Tae-ho Lee watched the confusion on the alien bridge through his hidden cameras. His stealth ship Silent Hunter had been tracking the Morak fleet for weeks, invisible to their sensors like a ghost in the darkness. What he had just done to the Dark Fang was only the beginning. The human stealth technology was something the aliens could not understand. Human ships could bend light around themselves, becoming completely invisible. They could mask their heat signatures and energy readings until they were indistinguishable. From empty space, they could move without making a sound, even in the vacuum of space. Taeho spoke quietly into his communicator. Command, this is Silent Hunter package delivered successfully. Target eliminated with no survivors. Back on Earth, General. Yujin Shin received the report in the war room deep beneath Seoul. The holographic display showed the Morak fleet position, but now there were only 39 ships instead of 40. The hunt was working exactly as planned. The beautiful thing about humans, General Shin told her staff, was that they never fought fair. If the enemy was bigger, they became smaller. If the enemy was stronger, they became faster. If the enemy expected a battle, they got an assassination. Instead, Chief Weapons Engineer Hyunwoo Nam was watching the battle from his laboratory on Luna Station. He had spent 10 years developing weapons that no alien could imagine. His favorite was the quantum torpedo that could phase through armor and explode inside enemy ships. Another was the gravity mine that created tiny black holes to tear vessels apart. The aliens think like conquerors, he explained to his team. Big ships, big guns, big explosions. They fight to show their power. We fight to win. And winning means using every advantage we can find. Meanwhile, communications specialist Yoon Seo-young was doing something that would have shocked the Morak if they knew about it. She was talking to the slaves on their ships, offering them freedom in exchange for information. One by one, conquered species began sending secret messages about Morak. Weaknesses, supply routes, hidden bases. The Velkan people had been slaves for 30 years, but they remembered how to sabotage ships. The Threks were small, but they could crawl through ventilation systems to plant explosives. The Zunari looked weak, but they were experts at computer hacking. Every species the Morak had conquered was now working against them. Captain Woo Jin Ko led a squadron of 12 human fighters toward a Morak battlecruiser called Iron Fist. The alien ship was 5 times bigger than all his fighters combined. Any normal military would call this suicide, but humans had learned long ago that size meant nothing if you were fast enough and smart enough. The fighters moved like a swarm of angry insects, too quick for the alien gunners to track. They struck at weak points in the armor, places where the ship's own weapons created blind spots. Ko had studied the Morak ship designs for weeks, and he knew exactly where to hit target their power couplings. Ko ordered his pilots. Remember, we want prisoners, not corpses. That was another thing the aliens did not expect. Humans did not just want to destroy their enemies. They wanted to learn from them. Every captured Morak became a source of intelligence. Every stolen computer file revealed more secrets. Every interrogation taught them something new about the Empire. Dr. Ji Hye-yoon was waiting when the first prisoners arrived at the secret research station hidden in the asteroid belt. She was a xenopsychologist who had spent years studying how alien minds worked, but she had never had live Morak to examine before. The purple-skinned warriors were brought to her laboratory in chains, expecting torture or death. Instead, they found something that scared them much more: a human who studied them like insects under a microscope. Your species conquers through fear, she told the captured officers. You have never faced an enemy that becomes more dangerous when threatened. You do not understand what humans are capable of when someone tries to hurt their families. The Morak prisoners said nothing, but their forearms shook with terror. They had expected to be executed or tortured. Instead, they were being analyzed, studied, dissected mentally by creatures who seemed to know more about Morak psychology than the Morak themselves. Captain Seung-hwan Park commanded the prisoner facility, and he watched every interrogation with professional interest. The aliens are not just afraid of dying, he reported to Earth. They are afraid of what we are learning about them. The information flowing back to human command was devastating. Every Morak ship captured revealed new technological secrets. Every prisoner interrogated provided intelligence about other conquered worlds. Every computer hacked showed the location of hidden bases and supply depots. Admiral Yang studied the reports with growing satisfaction. The aliens wanted to conquer us, he told his staff. Instead, they have given us a complete map of their entire empire by the 4th week of the journey toward Earth. General Vex realized something was terribly wrong. Half his fleet was gone, destroyed, or captured by an enemy he could not see. Human fighters struck like lightning and vanished like smoke. Human ships appeared from nowhere, destroyed Morak vessels, and disappeared before return fire could be aimed. The aliens had brought 40 ships to conquer humanity. Now only 20 remained, and those were being hunted through space by an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. For the first time in his long military career, General Vex felt something he had never experienced before: genuine fear. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning, and they were doing it in ways that made no sense to a species that only understood brute force. Worse yet, reports were coming in from across the Morak Empire. Human ships were attacking supply, convoys destroying military bases, freeing slave worlds. The creatures who were supposed to be easy prey had somehow become the hunters, and they were tearing the empire apart. General Vex stared at his tactical display, showing the pitiful remains of his once mighty fleet: 20 ships to conquer a world of 8 billion humans. It should have been impossible, but somehow the humans had made it happen. He was beginning to understand that threatening humanity had been the worst mistake the Morak Empire had ever made. The first real battle between humans and Morak happened near Jupiter, where the gas giant cast long shadows across the asteroid belt. Commander Woojin Ko led his squadron of 12 fighters toward the Morak destroyer Void Crusher, a massive ship that was 5 times the size of all his vessels combined. To any observer watching from a distance, it should have been a massacre. The Morak ship had enough firepower to destroy a small moon, while the human fighters looked like toys in comparison. But appearances could be deceiving, and humans had spent centuries learning how to turn seeming disadvantages into deadly weapons. The Morak destroyer fired its main guns, sending streams of plasma that could have melted a mountain. The beams cut through space where the human fighters had been just seconds before. But the fighters were no longer there. They moved like dancers in 3 dimensions, using the asteroids as cover and the planet's gravity to slingshot around obstacles. Commander Ko spoke calmly into his headset despite flying through a storm of alien weapons fire. Target their shield generators. Remember, we want this ship intact for study. Every piece of technology we capture makes us stronger. That was the thing about humans that confused other species. Most warriors fought to destroy their enemies. Humans fought to learn from them. They wanted to understand how Morak shields worked, how their weapons functioned, how their ships were built. Every battle was also a research expedition. The human fighters struck like a pack of wolves, attacking the weak points in the destroyer's armor. They had studied Morak ship designs for weeks, learning where the power conduits ran, where the shield generators were located, where the crew quarters could be breached. Fighter pilot Haewon Park fired her quantum torpedoes at the exact spot where the ship's own weapon turrets created a blind spot. The torpedoes phased through the outer hull and exploded inside the ship. The Morak crew felt their vessel shudder as internal explosions tore through critical systems. Lights went out, artificial gravity failed, and atmosphere began leaking into space. Inside the destroyer, Captain Thex roared orders at his crew in the harsh Morak language. But his gunners could not target enemies that moved too fast to track. His shields were failing under attacks that seemed to come from every direction at once. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. The Morak had always won. Through superior firepower and intimidation, they built bigger ships with more guns and crushed their enemies through brute force. But humans fought differently. They used speed instead of strength, intelligence instead of intimidation. They turned every battle into a puzzle to be solved. Within 20 minutes, the great destroyer was helpless. Its weapons were destroyed, its engines dead, its crew trapped in a metal tomb drifting through space. Commander Ko ordered his squadron to dock with the crippled ship and prepare boarding parties. Dr. Ji Hye-yoon was already on her way from the research station to examine the new prisoners. The captured Morak would be studied, analyzed, and questioned until humans understood everything about their species, their technology, their empire. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the war was spreading. Human ships struck at Morak supply lines, destroying convoys that carried food and weapons to the front lines. Captain Min-Soo Lee commanded a stealth cruiser that had been hunting alien transports for weeks. His ship looked like a harmless cargo vessel, but hidden beneath its peaceful exterior were enough weapons to level a city. The supply ship Golden Prophet carried ammunition and spare parts for the Morak fleet heading toward Earth. It was escorted by 2 destroyers and protected by the best shields alien technology could provide. The crew felt safe, surrounded by all that firepower. They never saw Captain Lee's ship until it was too late. The human cruiser dropped its disguise and opened fire at point-blank range. Quantum torpedoes tore through the supply ship's hull, while plasma beams disabled the escort destroyers. In less than 5 minutes, 3 Morak vessels were floating wreckage and their crews were either dead or prisoners. Back on Earth, Dr. Sora Kim was analyzing intelligence gathered from captured Morak computers. What she discovered made her excited and terrified at the same time. The aliens had not just been planning to attack Earth. They had detailed maps of human colonies, lists of important people, plans for enslaving entire populations. But the files also revealed something else. The Morak Empire was not as strong as it pretended to be. Many of the worlds they claimed to control were in rebellion. Their military was stretched thin across dozens of systems. Their economy depended on slave labor that was becoming increasingly unreliable. Most importantly, the Morak had made enemies of everyone they had ever conquered. 47 different species wanted revenge against their oppressors. And now those species had allies who could actually fight back. Communications specialist Yoon Seo-young was coordinating with rebel groups across the galaxy. The Velkan resistance had sabotaged 3 military bases. The Threx Underground had assassinated 2 regional governors. The Zunari hackers had crashed the computer systems controlling slave labor camps. For the first time in generations, the oppressed peoples of the galaxy had hope. And hope was the most dangerous weapon humans could give them. General Vex received the reports in his command center with growing horror. His supply lines were under attack. His military bases were being destroyed. His slave worlds were rising in rebellion. The humans had somehow turned a simple conquest into a galaxy-wide war worse, yet his own fleet was being hunted to extinction. Scout ships reported human vessels everywhere appearing from empty space, destroying Morak ships and vanishing like ghosts. His 40-ship armada was down to 15 vessels, and those were being stalked by an enemy that seemed to know their every move. The general tried to contact his home world for reinforcements, but the communication networks were jammed by human electronic warfare ships. He tried to retreat to a safe harbor, but there were no safe harbors left. Human strike teams had infiltrated Morak space and were destroying everything they could find. For the first time since the Empire began its expansion, General Vex understood that the Morak had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something that had been sleeping in the dark between the stars, something that fought not for conquest or glory, but for the simple right to exist free from oppression. The humans were not just defending their world, they were liberating the galaxy, and they were very good at it. Admiral Yang watched the tactical displays from his command center on Earth, showing human forces striking across a dozen star systems. The aliens thought they were hunting sheep, he said to his staff. Instead, they found shepherds, and the shepherds are very protective of their flocks. The price of underestimating humanity was becoming clear to the Morak Empire. It was not just defeat, it was the complete destruction of everything they had built over 1,000 years of conquest, and the bill was coming due. The attack on Morak Prime began at dawn, when the first human ships dropped out of hyperspace above the alien homeworld fleet. Admiral Kyung-min Choi stood on the bridge of the flagship Seoul Pride watching as 1,000 vessels materialized in perfect formation around the purple and black planet below. The sight was magnificent and terrible. Human ships of every size and design filled the space around Morak Prime. Massive battleships that could crack continents, small fighters that moved like silverfish, and stealth cruisers that flickered in and out of visibility. The entire might of humanity had come to the alien homeworld. Below them lay the heart of an empire that had conquered 47 civilizations. Morak Prime was home to 12 billion aliens who had built their society on the suffering of others. Great cities of black metal rose from purple seas, while orbital stations bristled with weapons that had kept the empire safe for 1,000 years. Today that safety would end. General Vex appeared on the communication screen, and Admiral Choi saw immediately that the arrogant alien commander had changed. The purple skin looked pale. The forearms trembled slightly, and the black eyes that had once held only contempt now showed something the Morak had never felt before. Pure terror. Human Commander General Vex began, and his voice was no longer commanding, but desperate. The Morak Empire wishes to discuss terms. We can find a peaceful solution to this conflict, Admiral. Choi listened to the translation with no expression on his face. 3 months ago, you threatened to destroy Earth and enslave humanity. You said you would kill our children and make our people work as slaves until they died. I wonder, General, what made you think we would show you more mercy than you planned to show us? The alien general opened his mouth to reply, but Admiral Choi continued. Your empire has lasted for 1,000 years. You have conquered worlds, destroyed civilizations, enslaved entire species. Today your empire dies. Around Morak Prime, the human fleet began its attack. But this was not the brutal bombardment that aliens expected. Instead of targeting cities full of civilians, the humans struck with surgical precision. Military bases vanished in balls of fire. Weapons factories exploded in chain reactions. Government buildings collapsed as quantum bombs tore through their foundations. The humans were not destroying the Morak homeworld. They were dismantling the Empire piece by piece on the surface. Colonel So-Young Kim led the first wave of ground troops. Her soldiers moved through Morak cities not as conquerors, but as something the galaxy had not seen in a very long time. Liberators. They freed the alien slaves who had been working in factories and mine species from dozens of worlds who had been prisoners for generations. The liberated aliens looked at their human rescuers with wonder. Many had never seen the creatures who had traveled across the galaxy to free them. A Velkan child who had been born in slavery touched a human soldier's hand and smiled for the first time in her life. A Threx elder wept as he realized his people would finally go home. This was what the Morak had never understood about humans. They did not fight for territory or resources or glory. They fought for freedom, their own freedom and the freedom of anyone who was being oppressed. Dr. Hee-Jin Lee worked as a diplomat talking with the leaders of the freed species, the human. Government wants nothing from your people, she explained. We are not here to rule you. We are here to help you rebuild your own civilizations. You will govern yourselves. Trade with whoever you choose, live however you want. The concept was so foreign that many aliens could not understand it at first. They had lived under Morak rule for so long that freedom seemed impossible. But slowly they began to believe that the nightmare was really over. General Vex watched his capital city fall around him. From his command bunker deep underground, his armies were surrendering without a fight. His government was collapsing as officials fled or joined the rebellion. His 1,000-year empire was dying in a single day. But the worst part was the reports coming from across Morak space. Every world the Empire had conquered was rising up in rebellion, armed with human weapons trained by human advisors and filled with human determination. The former slaves were destroying everything their oppressors had built. The Zunari had retaken their homeworld and were hunting down the Morak administrators who had tortured their people. The Velkan resistance had captured the regional capital and was broadcasting messages of freedom to other enslaved worlds. The Threx Underground had assassinated the governors of 6 different system species that had been enemies for generations, united against their common oppressor. The galaxy was learning that freedom was more powerful than any weapon, and humans had taught them how to use it. Admiral Choi received reports from across the battle zone. Human casualties were surprisingly light, while Morak resistance was crumbling everywhere. The aliens had been so confident in their superiority that they had never prepared for a real war against a determined enemy. The orbital defense stations that had protected Morak Prime for centuries were being systematically destroyed by human bombers. The great space elevators that connected the surface to the stars were cut down by precision strikes. The naval bases that had launched 1,000 conquest fleets were burning ruins. Captain Sung-Ho Kim, the explorer who had first met General Vex, landed his ship in the ruins of the Morak capital. He walked through streets where alien civilians cowered in fear, not knowing what the humans would do to them. But instead of revenge, they found mercy. Human medics treated wounded aliens. Human engineers restored power to hospitals. Human soldiers distributed food to hungry families. The people who had come to destroy the Empire were now helping its victims. This confused the Morak more than any weapon could have. They had expected death and destruction. Instead, they found creatures who fought like demons, but acted like angels, humans who could destroy planets but chose to heal them instead. As night fell over Morak Prime, the great empire that had terrorized the galaxy for a millennium was no more. The government had surrendered. The military had collapsed. The slave worlds were free, and the aliens who had once seemed invincible were now refugees in their own capital. General Vex emerged from his bunker under a white flag of surrender. Admiral Choi met him in the ruins of the Imperial Palace, surrounded by the leaders of 47 liberated species. The alien general looked small and broken compared to the proud warrior who had threatened. "Earth, you have won." General Vex said quietly, "What do you want from us?" Admiral Choi looked at the former emperor of half the galaxy. "We want you to understand something. Your empire is finished. Your time as conquerors is over. But you can still choose what happens next. You can help us rebuild this galaxy into something better. Or you can spend the rest of your lives in prison. The choice is yours." It was an offer no Morak victim had ever received. The chance for redemption instead of revenge. The possibility of becoming something better than what they had been. The galaxy watched and waited to see what the former masters of space would choose. 1 year after the fall of the Morak Empire, Captain Sung-Ho Kim walked through the corridors of New Geneva Station, the massive diplomatic complex that now served as the center of the Galactic Freedom Alliance. The station orbited a neutral star, halfway between Earth and the former Morak capital, and it buzzed with activity from dozens of different species. Through the vast transparent walls he could see ships from across the galaxy. Velkan traders with their silver vessels. Threx explorers, in their small but nimble craft. Zunari scientists aboard floating laboratories that defied conventional physics. And everywhere human ships moved among them like guardians protecting something precious. Ambassador Aaron Park was in the main conference hall mediating a trade dispute between two recently liberated civilizations. The work of building a new galactic order was slow and sometimes frustrating, but it was happening step by step. The universe was learning to live without the fear that had dominated it for so long. Captain Kim stopped to watch through the observation window as Ambassador Park helped the two species reach an agreement. Both sides had been slaves under the Morak, and both were struggling to rebuild their civilizations. Now they were learning to work together instead of fighting over resources. "You know, she makes it look easy, but it's the hardest job in the galaxy." Dr. Sora Kim had approached quietly. The xenobiologist now served as an advisor to the Alliance, helping different species understand each other. Captain Kim nodded. Every species has different customs, different values, different ways of thinking. But somehow Ambassador Park finds common ground between all of them. It was true. The galaxy contained hundreds of different civilizations, each with their own beliefs about government, trade, family, and society. Some were warriors by nature, others were peaceful traders. Some valued individual achievement while others put community first. Some communicated through sound, others through chemical signals, and a few through patterns of light. Before the war, these differences had made cooperation impossible. The Morak had used these divisions to keep their subjects weak and isolated, but humans had shown the galaxy something remarkable, that diversity could be a source of strength instead of weakness. In the years since the Morak surrender, amazing things had happened. Trade routes that had been controlled by the Empire were now open to everyone. Scientific knowledge was shared freely between species. Art and music and literature flowed across the stars as cultures that had been separated for generations rediscovered each other. The former slave worlds had formed the Galactic Freedom Alliance based on principles humans had taught them. Everyone was equal regardless of species size or military power. Decisions were made through discussion and compromise, not force. Each world governed itself while working together on matters that affected everyone. Humanity had become the unofficial leaders of this new alliance, not because they had conquered anyone, but because they had liberated everyone. When disputes arose, species asked for human mediators. When new worlds wanted to join, they sought human sponsors. When pirates or raiders threatened peaceful traders,